Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Persian. This is the Cowboy. What the fuck is going on, Mr. Cowboy?
Well, we know that there's a ton of conspiracy theories floating around there in the world, and some of them are more convincing than other ones. And today we're going to walk you through what our favorite conspiracy theories are out there. Mr. Persian, I know this is a big subject for you.
Oh, I'm a conspiracy theorist in a smart way. I'm not one of these crazy people that thinks things were staged, like people's deaths or whatever the fuck. But there are many big conspiracy theories out there.
He does think the Earth is flat, though, so we're going to have that.
No. I think it's round. I'm not Kyrie Irving. I'm not going to say it's flat. That guy should stick to playing basketball and not fucking give his opinion about whether the Earth is flat or whatever the fuck.
All right, start us off with number one.
Number one for me that stands out is the Kennedy assassination.
Going straight for it, man.
Let me just tell you this. The situation with the Kennedy assassination is probably the biggest conspiracy theory ever in human history. You had a president, a popular president, in John F. Kennedy, in the early 60s. He was a progressive president. He had a lot of things that he wanted to do for the United States to kind of push this country forward during a time of civil rights and racial upheaval and social inequalities. And the situation that happened with the Kennedy assassination, and by the way, the Kennedy family is a very corrupt family, like most political families. You got the Bush family, the Cheneys, they're
not all innocent like the Clintons, though.
Oh, the Clinton family is probably the most corrupt family. I mean, they're just often people left and right, and no one's saying anything about this. The Clintons are up there, the Bushes are up there. The Obama family is now a part of the crime family, the Biden crime family, but the Kennedys are one of the biggest crime families.
Well, we got to see who the handler is at the top. But anyways, let's stick to the Kennedy stuff.
But so here's the deal. So Kennedy was running for president, in 1960 or whatever, against Nixon in an election. And it came down to the wire. And the state that usually always comes up for us nowadays is Florida, okay? Mm-hmm. But this time, it was Illinois. And Kennedy had a lot of mafia ties to the mafia underworld in the United States. And Kennedy's dad had connections, too. So, and by the way, Kennedy's dad was a bootlegger during Prohibition. He made a fortune off selling booze.
So that's how they got to know the mafia, and that's how
they
Kennedy
probably knew the mafia through other things. But this is what happened. Nixon was probably going to win the election, but Kennedy needed to win Illinois to win the election. So what happened was he had his mafia friends go and start getting rid of ballots. They were intimidating voters. They were starting to steal ballots. They were starting to do some shady stuff in Illinois. And there was rumors of cheating going around and, the mishandling of votes and things of that nature. And in the end, Kennedy won by a slim margin. Okay.
That sounds like a normal election that's going on.
Yeah, but this was a big deal because, people started catching on to this like, whoa, what's happening? This was back in the 60s, early 60s. So anyway, so this happened, right? And then Kennedy becomes president during a tumultuous time. Cold War's going on, the whole Cuban Missile Crisis, whatever the fuck. So then, before Kennedy became president, he just got elected. He appointed his brother, Bobby Kennedy, Attorney General. Mm-hmm. So the mafia just hooked you up with an election. They fucking hooked you up fat. So you as the mafia would think, hey, this guy's not going to come after us and arrest us and be, like a war hawk with the crime, right? So they thought, hey, this guy's going to give us a pass. It's business as usual. The president owes us one. That is not what happened. Almost immediately, Bobby Kennedy came around and said, we're going to crack down on the mafia in the United States. We're going to take down the crime families, the five families. We're going to go after, the mafia underworld. We're just going to take them all out. We're going to start arresting them, prosecuting them, subpoenaing them. So then the mafia goes, what the fuck? We just hooked you guys up in an election. Now you're coming after us? That's fucked up. So then, good old 62, 63 rolls around. You have all these high-profile mafia arrests. Bobby Kennedy's looking like, like Captain America. The Kennedys are doing their thing. JFK's popular amongst one of the younger presidents that's ever been president in the United States. And then, we have the situation that happened in Dallas, Texas in November, right before Thanksgiving, was the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
So you're saying that the communists didn't have anything to do with it. It was the mafia that took him out because they were getting shut down after the election.
There's two things that happened with this theory. First of all, there was the whole lone gunman theory, the Oswald thing. I think that's fake news. Oswald was a patsy. I think what happened was that Kennedy had an issue with the mafia. He started going after them when they actually hooked him up, with an election win. There was a lot of fraud going around. He wanted to, kind of make this go away so it doesn't creep back up. And also, we had the whole Vietnam situation. Vietnam started happening for America around the early 60s. And he didn't want the United States to get involved in Vietnam militarily at first. He didn't want that to happen. But the American military-industrial complex wanted to get involved in Vietnam because, number one, it was an opportunity to make money. Number two, we didn't want Vietnam to become completely communist. And number three, we had a situation with the Cold War that was going on. So we had to get involved in Vietnam. And a lot of the, big wigs and the higher-ups in the American government wanted to get involved in Vietnam, but Kennedy was he didn't want to get involved. He had doubts. He didn't want to get America involved in this type of war. So many people were pissed about that. So I think it was a hit job. I think Kennedy got whacked. I think it was the U.S. government involved in this, CIA, FBI elements, but CIA mainly, and then they hired the mafia to take out John F. Kennedy. So there was a lot of reports in that grassy knoll in Dallas, Texas, where this parade was taking place when Kennedy came, that there were multiple shooters in that grassy knoll. And there were people dressed in police uniforms who were fleeing the scene and were taking off. A lot of accounts by people then and now, and people on their deathbed saying, I saw a bunch of pot shots coming out of a bush. And they said that it was almost incomprehensible for at that angle and from that shooter, Oswald, to hit him like that. That had to come from a different direction. But Oswald did shoot, but they said it was also coming from different directions. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind this. There was films made about it. So in the end, Kennedy was assassinated not by Oswald, but by gunmen that were hired by the U.S. government, by the CIA, who were part of the mafia, and they took him out. And then, here's the kicker, real quick. When Oswald gets arrested, a couple days later, Jack Ruby, this big-time mafia gangster from New Orleans who owned a bunch of casinos and strip joints, killed Oswald outside of the jailhouse. He shot him in the stomach and killed him. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck would Jack Ruby kill Oswald? And he said, I love John F. Kennedy so much. I was upset about it. It doesn't make sense. They wanted to shut him up so he wouldn't talk. That's why the mafia is involved. And on top of that, Jack Ruby had a lot of debt with other mafia families. So they told him, you have to do this. And he had cancer, too, at that time. So it was like a suicide mission, but he was already dying anyways. Yeah. So there's a lot of conspiracies here and a lot of cover-ups. Go ahead, Cowboy.
I'll give a score of plausibility. I'd say maybe a 3 out of 10 on if the CIA and the FBI hired the mafia to kick it out. The one thing that you didn't bring up that I was kind of surprised about is the documents that the United States government has not released yet.
Well, actually, that's a good point.
Because that was one thing is like, if they haven't released all the documents and they keep extending out the time period to declassify those things. So I'm wondering what they're trying to hide. It all seems kind of fishy
hiding
there.
It.
But
are they stupid to get these documents out to the public? Because the public finds out that the U.S. government was really behind this. They hired the mafia to execute John F. Kennedy. Then the American government is no longer viable. It doesn't make sense. I had my own president killed because he didn't want to get involved in Vietnam, and he didn't want for us to get involved militarily fully. I mean, it was a golden opportunity for all the war hawks to say, dude, we need to get rid of this guy because we're going to be weak as a foreign policy country. We're going to have big problems with the Soviet Union.
Yeah, so that's... Okay, we'll let the viewers decide. They're not going to
release the documents because there's things in there that are going to bring things to light that they don't want the American public to know.
All right. So we'll wrap that one up. So going on to my first one. My favorite conspiracy theory is that Nike created a shoe industry that does not need to exist and has not existed throughout human history. We all see these giant heels that they have on their shoes We have giant cushions. Everyone has arch support now. All of it is completely useless and is a waste of money going back. So the human foot has been designed to absorb the impact of running and the motion of it.
Right.
If you watch little kids run, they all strike with their on the ball of their foot. The arch flexes, and then their heel lightly touches the ground, and then they spring up off of their foot too. Mm-hmm. And if you watch people that grew up running just barefoot their entire lives, like Kenyans and tribes in Africa, you go to the Amazon,
right. And that's better for you.
Yeah, it's absolutely better for you. So the foot is designed to be able to handle that. But right now, but the guys that created Nike, they went back and it was a track coach in like the 70s who had the idea of, I think I have a new running form and a running style that is going to help my athletes produce more and to be better athletes.
Right.
And so he thought, okay, we're going to have them land on their heel and then roll their foot through and pull it off like that, kind of like you're on like a scooter or something pulling it through. But he was running into a problem where all his athletes are getting hurt because they're impacting the heel first into the ground. And back then, like, workout shoes were basically like flats. Like, you look at the guy that broke the 4-minute mile mark, he's basically running in little slipper things. Right. Like, that's all that it really was. And so his guys were getting hurt and injured by that. So he was like, oh, okay, I need to add more cushion there. Instead of thinking, my idea is wrong, he's like, oh, I need to add more cushion into that part of the foot. So that's when you start getting those big fat heels on the back side of the shoes, and then you start elevating up the heel for it. And so you're running through, and you can run in that motion without hurting your foot as much.
Right.
But now you start causing problems where the impact is getting absorbed by the cushion on the heel, but it's also shooting up into the knees and into the hips. Mm-hmm. And those injuries have gone way up in running since that was created for it too. Right. So I think that the whole Nike industry, where they're trying to promote these giant inflated shoes and heels and everything like that, completely useless. You look back at the Converses before that, and like the NBA and stuff, zero heel drop, very simple shoe, just a rubber bottom.
It was healthier.
Way healthier, I wonder it'd be interesting to see a study about how many ankle injuries happened back then before they started getting these giant fat inflated heels too. So.
And first of all, these fucking shoes, have you seen these shoes lately? You and I took a stroll. We had some lunch a couple weeks back. We went to a Nike store locally in San Jose. And what the fuck? Some of these shoes, their heels are like literally this big.
Yeah.
They look like moon shoes. Who the fuck wants to wear this shit? And they're worth like $300. Nike, by the way, is a nasty company. They're an evil company.
Yeah. And the
sweatshops.
Yeah.
You have a little kid working in there making the shoes for like $1. The motherfucker's hands are literally look like he's got Parkinson's, like shaking because he's made like over 100 shoes, 200 shoes an hour. And this company comes back and they sell the shoe for like minimum $200, even higher prices. And everybody kills themselves for these fucking shoes. They're ugly shoes.
Yeah. And so the other thing is they're muscles in your feet.
Yeah.
Right. And if you've worn shoes, these tight like shoes that have become the prominent style now your whole life, your foot doesn't develop right. It starts getting narrowed and pinched in the front where it should be kind of flat, and your toes should be kind of spread out more like hands. And then the arch of your foot, it has muscle on there. And the problem is we've never worked that muscle out because the shoes just hold your foot completely static like you're in a cast. So the first time you try running barefoot after a lifetime of wearing these Nike puffy, secure shoes, you can't. You're going to hurt your arches, and that's where the plantar fasciitis starts coming from because they never develop that muscle at all. And so, we work all the muscles out in our body except for the ones on our feet, which I think is just crazy. So, Nike causing big harm and health issues just to try to sell more shoes and to make it a demand where there actually is no demand. We don't need their shoes. We can run barefoot just fine. A guy I think it was the 70s, won the Olympic marathon barefoot.
He did?
Yeah.
Jesus, I hope it was a flat surface, no rocks got in between his
I
toes.
think it was in Rome, and he's just going
Yeah.
through the pebbly
It was
streets
better
and
for you.
whatnot. Yeah.
Didn't you have you used to wear?
Yeah, I've switched to completely barefoot shoes. Yeah,
Yeah,
And
didn't
my
you
feet
have
have been
that
a lot
shoe?
better.
You used to wear like the
The
foot
toe glove ones.
Yeah, the toe glove ones.
Those ones are fun.
If
I
you
like
didn't-
them.
If you ran on the ground and you stepped on a rock, did it hurt?
You feel it, yeah.
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 Jesus Christ, dude. Fuck
Yeah,
that. I
your
don't wanna
feet
wear
toughen
that
up,
shit.
dude. It
But it's
toughens
healthy.
up.
You're right, though. They're
Yeah.
healthy. I'm going to give you a grade on this conspiracy theory. You
All
gave
right.
mine a 3 out of 10.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say you're 7.5 out of 10.
All right.
I'm a firm believer because you know I'm anti-Nike.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
I'm
screw Nike.
anti-Nike. Fuck Nike.
All right. What's your
right.
next one?
My next one is the whole conspiracy around the moon and the moon landing. So I do believe that human beings went to the moon, but I do believe there is something there. Why the fuck haven't we come back to the moon and established a colony or have come back on a visit? The last time we went to the moon was when? The early 70s?
Yeah, 72, I think.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Everybody says budget cuts. Motherfucker, we're sending shit all the way at the end of the solar system that's going into deep space. We're going to Mars. We're sending rovers there. Why the fuck have we not built a little colony on the moon? Okay? So, like, something's going on.
Epstein's probably there. Just
I don't know if Epstein is there. Epstein is definitely in the bottom of the pit of hell. But, and the Clintons killed him, by the way. I think the Clintons killed him in jail.
Yeah, he didn't kill himself.
Yeah,
but
he did not
We'll
do
give
that.
that conspiracy theory a 10 out of 10, right?
Actually, I'm going to bring that up, too. Today.
Oh, okay. Sorry to
Yeah, so that's
forecast a little bit.
that's coming up. But I would say this. I understand the moon race was very political. It was to beat the Soviet Union, to get there first, even though the Soviet Union beat us first to space with Sputnik. Then we got our shit together, and we ended up beating them by landing on the moon. But Buzz Aldrin, one of the heroes of this program, space program, literally said something was following us constantly when we were on the moon. Now, was it another satellite? Was it the Russians? Was it the Americans? Who was it? I don't think it was either. I think it was an entity, an alien entity that was following us to see how we are progressing as a species. Wow, these guys actually are now going to space. They're taking one giant leap for man and one giant leap for, what was it, for mankind? Is that what the motherfucker said? Anyways, I probably messed up that quote.
One small step for man.
Yeah, thank
one
you. I just had a
giant
George
leap for
W. Bush
mankind.
moment. I had a George W. Bush moment.
Anyways,
Anyways.
drive a golf ball or something.
Yeah, there we go. Now watch this. What did he say? Now watch this drive.
Yeah.
But anyways, so why haven't we been back since the early 70s? Because on the far side of the moon, I think there are an extraterrestrial colony that's there. And I think they've come in contact with whoever's there. And they said, listen, we don't want you guys coming back here. Okay, this is our side. You guys have your side. Don't fucking come back here. They saw something, and in one of the most recent pictures that was recently leaked, they said we saw lights on the moon on the surface.
You know, that's something I never really considered before because I've known that we only ever see one side of the moon.
Yeah.
And it's just it's supposed to be just gravitationally locked in place because that's where all the damage was.
Something's
where the
there.
asteroids hitting on that side.
Something's there.
But yeah, because like before we sent a satellite to orbit the moon, I mean, we'd never seen the backside of the moon. We'd had no idea what it looked like, right?
Something, my friend, I think...
So we've only been able to see the backside of the moon for like less than 100 years.
I'm telling you right now, something is there, whether it's an alien colony or an alien city or like a platform, a launching pad for space travel for this entity. But I think human beings do not want to go there because there are some answers. There's an entity that, I don't know if it's hostile because they would have wiped us out, but they said, look, this is our side. This is your side. We don't want to fuck with you. You don't fuck with us. So just leave it be. But there is a reason. But then they like
showed us cell phone technology and that.
Well,
kind
I
of
don't
stuff.
know about all that. I think technology has improved, and there may have been other species that showed us technology and different.
Well, I bet there's a bunch of
communications.
pyramids on the backside of the moon too.
I'm telling you, there are some structures there because there's a picture that got leaked that shows lights on the surface of the moon. We don't have a city there, folks. We don't have the technology back then to do that unless there's a secret society that's doing that, which I highly doubt. But there is something there. There is something there, and they are not talking about it because we can't even deal with COVID. We can't even deal with some rain that falls. Everybody freaks out. So you tell people there's an alien species that has a colony on the moon, then something's going on. So, yes, I think aliens are here. They have colonized the moon, and it's a launching pad for space travel, and we know about it.
So let's go through your evidence real quick. So could you recap just bullet point on the evidence?
Bullet point number one is that multiple. Okay, Neil, what's this guy's name? Buzz Aldrin has said that when we went to the moon, something was following us and watching us commit this act. And when we landed, we even saw it. And by the way, when NASA had the feed, when human beings landed on the moon, there was a 2 to 3 minute shut off, and it went completely dark. And then it came back on. Something was seen, maybe an alien vessel or some sort of alien probe. They didn't want human beings to see it, so they cut off the feed. And then, of course, they told these 3 astronauts to shut the fuck up about it when they came back down. But Armstrong has, Buzz Aldrin has said that something was there and following us and observing us. And I don't think it was the Russians. I don't think it was the Americans just testing this. It was some other entity that was non-human that was watching us, because that's a big deal. You're observing a species, you're way advanced by 1,000 years, and then you see this little dinky planet and these stupid humans literally doing this. Yeah. That is literally a huge leap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And they don't want to contaminate the culture because they want us to evolve, because if you want to travel through space, you have to be very intelligent. You have to be very, you move forward through your problems. And we're doing that right now. We're fighting still down here, but they're observing us and they're saying, hey, these guys eventually will get there, but it may take 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that haven't seen our aliens episode, please go watch that one. We recap and go into great detail on the aliens and human history.
Fantastic.
And I
love this shit.
Yeah.
It makes my balls
I didn't know you were
tingle.
such a UFO guy. It's kind of funny.
I love it. I believe in it. I love space. I'm a big Star Trek guy. And honestly, I think all this stuff... I mean, come on, man. In the universe, there's no other life. It's just us. Highly doubtful.
Yeah, it's just how far away are they?
They probably...
Yeah, so
Probably. What grade are you going to give me on this one?
I don't know.
You better give me a better score than 3 out of 10.
I mean, is that more plausible than
Absolutely,
the FBI
I think they're both plausible, but
I'll give you a 4.5 out of 10 on this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I need more than
Get the fuck out of here.
than just senile Buzz Aldrin saying something at the
That man is a genius,
day.
dude. He's not senile. He even said this.
Did Neil Armstrong confirm or anything like that? Do we have any recollection?
Excuse me.
I need more reports right there. Someone in the comments find me a photo of the backside of the moon. I will
find that comment. I will find the picture and I will release the picture.
All right. I'm gonna stick with the 4.5 out of 10 though. For
All
that
right.
one.
Well, that's a little bit better than 3.
Okay.
All right, Cowboy, your turn.
All right, moving on to my next one. Okay. Canada and Russia are colluding to cause global warming. You heard it here first.
Oh, my God.
Now, let me say this. All right.
Explain.
Which countries benefit the most from the world heating up?
Canada and Russia.
Canada and Russia are both covered in frozen tundra. They have huge amounts of land. They have grass all over the place, but it's permafrost all year round. Yeah. If the world heats up just a bit more, then all of a sudden they just got lush savannas all over the place. You know how many islands Canada has in the north right there? They have a ton of islands that are just these could be like beach houses. And then if the North Pole melts, they have their own little Mediterranean. Yeah. That's a huge shortcut for travel from the Pacific to the Atlantic. Nice. You'd be able to just ship right through there. Yeah. That'd just be a just beautiful Mediterranean Sea ready to go. And the other thing is they are both leading exporters of fossil fuels and natural gas.
Yes, they are. A lot of oil, natural gas, coal, things like that.
So they're just spreading that stuff all over the place, trying to heat up the earth and just be like, all right, no worries, guys, let's get this going, So I think they are the ones that benefit the most from it. And if you're wondering why things keep happening, look at who benefits the most from this process continuing to happen. It's not the guys in Central and near the equator, that's for sure. They're getting hotter there, that's more deserts that are going to be caused. California's slowly turning into a desert. The Mississippi Basin is going to desertify if it keeps getting hotter.
Well, then it's empty, right?
And then then we're going to have to look up to Canada, which is going to become one of the most beautiful countries in the world if that's the case. So, and Canada would become a much more enjoyable place to live if it got a little bit warmer up there.
Yeah, because their population's very small too. What are they, like 40 million, 44 million for a big ass country like that? That should technically hold about 200, 300 million people.
Yeah.
Russia has a very limited population. It's like 150 million people.
Yeah, but they got
big
so
ass country
much
because
land.
it's so cold. It's so fucking cold. Who wants to live there?
Yeah.
But with climate, let me tell you this real quick before I let you continue. Number one, global warming, in my opinion, obviously, the Earth goes through heaps and valleys with with the change in weather, but we have really fucked the planet up with the shit that we're doing, with the fossil fuels and the oil and the coal and the amount of cars we have and the people we have. We're overpopulated, folks. We're overpopulated. We're killing this planet, and we're making this planet warm up, and you're having extreme weather. In February, we are having, in this area, we have snow from time to time on the top peaks. Snow, like snow dust, whatever. We've seen it's not abnormal. But this amount of snow that we had today, like literally 500 feet and above, has a ton of fucking snow in this area, which is unusual. We don't have that in California. And then the East Coast has 70-degree weather. Something's going on.
Well, that's another thing. Kind of a side tangent on this one.
Yeah.
I remember like 10 years ago that like new technology breakthrough that everyone was hoping for was going to be the weather machine that's going to be able to control the weather and figure stuff out and, go from there. And I'm thinking about that. I'm like, where did those conversations go? What had happened to those inventions?
Hiding it.
I don't know. I'm sure it's a Google search away, but we can figure that out from there. But why don't we have one of those? And maybe we do have one.
Yeah, they don't want to bust it out.
They don't want to tell it about it.
They don't want to tell it.
Or maybe they do have it, and that's why we're getting all this snow right now. That's why we're getting all this rain this year. We're actually having a real winter for the first time in forever.
A device like that, and you militarize it, if the militaries have created this, instead of dropping bombs on your enemy, you can literally fuck up your enemy's weather and do a massive drought for like a decade, and you can squeeze your enemy.
Yeah.
To the point of collapse. So that would be a hell of a weapon to have, but it's going to have horrible effects on the planet.
Yeah.
When human beings get involved with this shit, don't do it. Just bury that fucking machine in the ground and don't even touch it. You're going to fuck things up even more.
So going back to Russia, though.
Yes.
Did you know they're bringing back the mammoths?
Yes, they are. I'm excited about that.
They're going to put a new herd of cloned mammoths up there.
I like it. Let's get the fucking dinosaurs, too. Why not? Let's get some pterodactyls and raptors and shit. Let's get Jurassic Park.
That's when the children are going to start getting snatched up and taken off. Yeah,
let's not fuck the pterodactyls. Let's not do that one.
Yep. So that's my Canada-Russia theory.
Where's your fucking evidence?
My evidence is who benefits the most from it. Okay. And they're exporting all this gas.
That's a valid point. I'm going to give you a 5.
And Buzz Aldrin on his deathbed said that Canada and Russia are colluding to cause global warming with the aliens up on the moon.
Buzz Aldrin's alive.
Oh, sorry.
I think he's alive.
Sorry,
Somebody
Buzz.
fact check us.
Sorry,
Buzz
Buzz.
is alive. How dare you talk about Buzz that way? Let's look this up real quick.
Sorry, it was a Buzz Lightyear quote.
What the fuck are you talking about, dude? This poor guy's alive,
I'm
dude.
full of shit. Well,
anyways, I was only going to give you. I'm going to deduct from your score right now. Buzz Aldrin, is he alive? Dude, the motherfucker's still alive, dude.
Well,
he's doing just fine. Anyways, so here's the deal. I'll give you a score. I was going to give you 5.5, but because of that Aldrin comment, I'm going to give you 5 out of 10. You just disrespected a national icon and hero.
Fair enough.
So you're
Fair
done.
enough.
So 5
Sorry,
out
Buzz.
of 10. And let me tell you this. I don't think it's crazy. Anything is possible. Okay? Anything is possible. But if that happens, if the fucking North Pole melts and all the ice fucking melts, we're all fucked. All the coastlines are going to be
except
engulfed.
Canada and Russia.
Well, I don't know about all that, but...
and then it's going to be a mad dash to see who gets Antarctica.
Hey, and Antarctica, by the way, I got a theory about that place, but that's for another day. But Antarctica, God, somebody's going to have to claim that shit.
There's some
ASAP.
pyramids down there, yeah.
Someone's going to have to build a fat city over there. It's a huge continent. Like, that's a lot of potential. But we'll see what happens there. Okay, Cowboy. What else do I got on my list? Oh, man, let's stick with the alien topic. I'm going to talk about Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, my. Here we go.
So, what was it? Roswell was what, 1948 or some shit like that? 48?
I think so.
So, here's the deal. There are many different theories about Roswell. Hot air balloon, whatever. The balloon situation, like, folks, this is like 70 years ago, 80 years ago almost. Like, what's with the balloons?
Well, give the
everybody's
backstory,
obsessed.
you know?
So here's the deal. So in that 1948 year, during that time, as they said, a hot weather balloon or whatever crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, on a farm, in a field. And it caused a lot of stir. Many locals said it wasn't a balloon. It was actually a cylindrical spacecraft, a vessel that crashed there. And they said the military presence there was astonishing. There were hundreds of military officers, soldiers that had quarantined this area, and basically they did not allow any reporters to come in or any residents to come in over there. There was a lot of shiny objects that were all over the place, and they had the looks of people were concerned. You have many people on their deathbed who've come over and said, hey, this was not a balloon. This was actually an aircraft that was non-human that crashed into this field. We recovered bodies from there, dead and alive, and we've taken a couple of entities, people, from another planet, and we've put them in a military installation. So there was a lot of concerned people, conflicting reports, and they basically towed this thing on a huge military truck, and they took it, and it was guarded by military vehicles. If this was just a hot air balloon or a weather balloon for meteorology, who the fuck cares? Do it with like 10, 20 people max. Done. Why is there such a huge military presence there, and why did this crash? The other theory about it is that the Russians stole the UFO technology from the Germans, because the Germans were fucking around with UFO technology, or I should say cylindrical aircraft. They were testing it out during World War II and never established it. And then when Germany fell, the Nazis lost, the U.S. and the Soviet Union basically took half of the German scientists. One side got half, the other side got half. And basically some of the plans got leaked, and they took that, and they said that the Russians, the Soviet Union, put deformed-looking people into a cylindrical craft and basically had a crash in Earth to scare the U.S. government to make it look like there were aliens. I highly doubt that was possible. I think it was an alien craft. I think it crash-landed in Roswell. There was dead aliens there. There was many accounts from people on their deathbed that came clean because they wanted to come clean. There were many people that said, hey, we came back to the military base, and many people were shocked. They couldn't even talk about what they saw. And then they had to sign documents to basically cover up what they saw. So it was one of the first big incidents with aliens and extraterrestrials, and it really opened our eyes. And during that time, there was a lot of nuclear testing. I wasn't sure if there's nuclear testing in that region, but many UFO sightings started happening over American military installations and over nuclear tested sites because, again, this goes back to the theory of the Eisenhower visitation that he had with the alien race at the base in the Mojave Desert that said, hey, you guys need to knock this shit off with the nuclear technology and the detonations because you're causing a change to time and space every time you do this. And they would send like radiation into space, and that's why extraterrestrials were so interested that these dumb human beings are like actually taking a step up in the technological world. So it was definitely an alien spacecraft, to wrap it up, and it was covered up because people couldn't handle it. They don't want people knowing that this shit was, from another world.
Yeah, so I still think it's likely that it was just an experimental aircraft that went down in the desert that the United States government did not want to see. But I do think that there's been some compelling testimony from people that worked in Roswell in more recent years, like one of the guys that was a scientist experimenting on stuff back then. I watched one of his videos and I was like, it's pretty compelling what he's actually saying. He doesn't seem like a crazy man out there going for that. And so I'm like, I don't know, but it's an interesting one.
Well, I mean, you even have Area 51. You have that base in Nevada that is a Air Force base that does testing on different military aircraft, experimental aircraft, and there's also testimonies and rumors that you have a whole alien division there. Basically, like you have alien craft that's been recovered and has been shipped to Area 51, where the humans are doing tests on it or trying to replicate the technology.
Yeah, and then the fighter pilot testimonies have been coming out recently too about them seeing objects doing weird things in the sky and trying to figure out what the hell they are. And
it's amazing.
They don't know,
it's amazing. I mean, it's crazy.
Given the, I still think it's quite possible that it was just an experimental craft that went down. And like clearly, the United States government isn't telling us everything.
No,
So
they can't. They can't. But at the same time,
for national securities, and are they not telling us because it is a top secret military technology that they've been developing, or is it something else?
I think it's both. I think, Cowboy, number one, you as a military, as a government, you cannot leak secrets about your technology because your enemies will find out and they'll try to replicate it. Number one. Number two, can you imagine, like, if they say, yes, aliens do exist and we have proof, here are the pictures, here's the bodies, everything would change.
Yeah.
The way we think, religion would be completely I don't think religion would change necessarily, but a lot of people would doubt religion and faith, and they would be like, are these our creators? Like, it gets you to think.
Yeah.
It gets you to think, and I think there would be a lot of controversial things that would come out of it. They don't want to deal with the fallout, the economic fallout, the chaos that would happen from it, people becoming very scared.
Do you think there'd be a lot of chaos? I mean, I think it'd just be kind of like, oh, cool,
My man, just look at COVID-19, the chaos that caused.
Unless we know that they're like holding a gun to our head
Yeah.
on the base behind on the other side of the moon. So yeah, it's kind of hard to say.
Human beings are not ready to know the truth about extraterrestrials and UFOs because we can't even handle ourselves. We're still killing each other over oil and natural gas and water, and we can't even get along on this planet. And then all of a sudden, a group of people come to this planet from another world, and that gets leaked. Hey, they're here. People would freak the fuck out.
Yeah, I think I have a little more faith in the people of the world than that. I think knowing something else is out there would kind of bring us together a little bit more, and
You just hit it on the button. And I think, did you watch Star Trek recently?
No.
No, okay. So in Star Trek, what was it, First Contact, or the story, basically, you had a guy in Montana who was like a scientist, a guy named Zephyrin Cochrane was his name in the story.
Uh-huh.
And Earth...
It's not a side story of like Yellowstone or something like that?
No. Great show, by the way. Love Kevin Costner. Shout out Yellowstone. But anyways, there is a third world war happening on Earth, a nuclear war. 40% of the planet's been decimated. Hundreds of millions of animals, plants, and species are extinct. Earth is going through a 35-year world war, basically, and it's complete chaos. It's apocalyptic. The surface of the Earth is fucked up. Everything's contaminated. So this guy creates warp technology, right? Mm-hmm. And basically, he tests his technology. He goes into space with warp technology, and as soon as the warp technology is done, they basically get contacted by a group of aliens who land in Bozeman, Montana. That's where the guy was located. The Vulcans, and they come down.
Everything's happening in Bozeman nowadays.
Because I'm telling you, Montana's something's going on over there.
That's where we got to move, man.
We should go there, actually.
With global warming, it'll be nice and cozy up there.
That is true. A lot of wildlife, too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, they land, and they talk to the human beings through a universal translator, and then they communicate that way. But the Vulcans unite Earth together again. And Earth moves as a society, and they teach human beings about space travel. They help them rebuild Earth, and they become almost like a mentor or like a guiding light for Earth.
Yeah.
And they rebuild Earth, and then Earth becomes a leader in space in that storyline, and they become the top dogs, but they have to give us a boost to get us back on track and to unite us.
Share some technology. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's
Maybe
the
we
thing
do
about,
need that. Maybe we do need that.
We're all human beings. We all live on
Yeah.
this earth. We all share it together. We should all try our best to get along and, live and let live and
Absolutely
take care of each other.
Amen.
Right?
So what grade am I getting on this one?
I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Okay, I love it. Wow, that's a good score.
Because I'm not convinced that it is alien technology that crashed in Roswell. I am very convinced that the United States government is not telling us everything, and something weird and spooky did happen out there.
Yeah.
Whether it is that Russian thing you were saying or whatnot, but there's something that happened out there, and they're not giving us all the information. So
they're not. So I appreciate that high score. Cowboy,
7.5. All right.
what's your next one, dude?
My next one is Big Sugar colluding with the United States government and
that's a good one.
to make us less healthy as a people.
Fuck yeah, that's true. 110%.
This one goes back to studies that were funded in the 70s that were provided by the big sugar companies in the United States that said that sugar is not linked to obesity and diabetes, and that it is trans fats and other fats that are the culprit that are making us unhealthy and worsening our cholesterol and everything like that. First of all, let me just do a little disclaimer. I am not a biologist. I am not a medical professional. This is all hearsay from some guy you just saw online wearing a cowboy hat, though. So the big sugar companies funded these studies, and that's when the push got fat-free everything, right? We were trying to eliminate fat from our diet, and that's when obesity really started taking up in the United States during the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Diabetes and obesity
epidemic.
just shot up right there. And so the United States government publishes the food pyramid. Do you remember that thing?
Yes, I remember the food pyramid. They pushed that shit in elementary school so much.
Yeah, and it was bread on the bottom. Bread, carbohydrates, grains are the basis of our study right there. That came out from like the agriculture department produced that. Not like the medical department, not the CDC. Like it was from the agriculture department that came out and produced this food pyramid that we're pushing on all of our children on how they should be eating, what they should be eating.
Right.
And fats are at the very like top over there, like, sometimes you can have these, you know?
Yeah.
And the carbs at the bottom, all of those things, the grains, they put sugar in all of those.
They put a lot of shit in there, that's for sure.
It's so hard to go to the grocery store and buy bread that doesn't have sugar in it these days.
Yeah.
And they do it because sugar is addictive. And it causes you to eat more and more and more.
That's what they want.
Yeah, exactly. There was one time I was going to the grocery store and I wanted to just make some, it was like a nice Alfredo pasta, right? And I'm looking through all the Alfredo sauces in there, trying to find something good that's pretty healthy. I'm checking the back of ingredients. I can't find one that doesn't have sugar added to it. And Alfredo sauce
It's insane. Why does it even have sugar in it?
Yeah, Alfredo sauce is basically just cream. And then like a little Parmesan, salt, pepper, and like some stuff added into it to make it good. But you cannot buy one at the grocery store that doesn't have sugar already in it. Sugar is in everything, and it's making us fat. It's making us out of shape. It's making us obese and causing all these health problems for us. The diabetes thing is kicking off. So that brings it into the second step of my conspiracy theory is that the big pharma is also in cahoots with the big sugar companies trying to cause this. Because Big Pharma does not want us to be healthy.
No, they don't, because they're trying to make money.
Yeah, and if we are unhealthy, then we're going to be buying their drugs. We're going to be taking their drugs and making us feel better, right?
Exactly.
The only drugs that actually cure disease are like antibiotics and like chemotherapy and those cancer-fighting ones and stuff.
Right.
Like everything else is just to cure your symptoms of your problem.
Right.
We've become a society where we just take a pill and we feel better about it. And that's what we're going to right there. And no one's looking at what the root causes of these things are because there's no money in that. If we say, eating this food is making us unhealthy and making me depressed and anxious and fat and obese, and if I stop eating this food, then I will be feeling better. They don't want that because they want to keep selling the pills. They want to keep moving it. They want to get the insulin stuff going out for everyone. And so that's my theory on big sugar being in cahoots with the big pharma and the United States government, making the American people fat and obese and out of shape. And
I'm going to give you a grade, and I'm going to say it's a 20 out of 10. You're getting extra credit. I am a huge believer in this. They want to make us sick, folks. The government and the companies, they're all in cahoots together. They're in bed fucking each other because they're all making money. Mm-hmm. And the government's getting a cut. The pharmaceuticals are getting a cut. The pharmaceuticals need us to be sick in order to make money.
Yeah.
And that's my next thing I was going to talk about. But this is not a secret. It's a huge conspiracy, but it's not a secret. This is happening in front of us. We're one of the most sick countries in the world. Mm-hmm. We have people who are obese. The shit that they put in food nowadays are causing kids to have hormonal issues.
Well, I'll give you an example. The M&Ms, the red M&Ms.
I just had a bag of that yesterday.
Yeah, they're tasty.
I just had the big peanut one.
They use
the dye?
The food coloring,
yes.
the dye for the red ones. and it is banned in the United Kingdom. So if you get M&Ms there, they dye it with like beet juice. So it's more of like a muddy brown kind of red.
I like that. Okay.
But it's different. And in Europe, they've banned a lot of these things too.
They're ahead of us in that front. The Europeans are ahead of us in terms of that, because I told you in one episode, when I went to Europe, I'm a lactose person here in America. When I went to Europe, I literally had milk, regular milk. I had cheeses when I was in Rome. If I had that kind of shit here, I would be shitting myself. But over there, no problem.
Yeah, and so I looked into that after you said that last time. And in the United States, we do the ultra pasteurization, right? We're like boiling the shit out of our milk to kill everything in that, and then we put it in the refrigerator, and you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
In Europe, they do the like radiation, which is what we've been like, radiation bad. We don't do that. But it's basically they use UV light to kill all the bugs that are inside of it.
Yeah.
So they just pass it through in a clear bag underneath it, kills all the bugs, and then it's shelf stable. They just have it on the shelf in a bag, and you just pick it up and go to go.
Well, I mean, and this needs to come to account, because you have a lot of people in this country that are dying from various disease that they don't want you to know. Like, we have a lot of people who are young who are having hormonal problems, young girls who are going through their periods at age 8, 9. You have boys who are now going through their puberty at 8 and 9. You have kids who are morbidly obese because they're so hooked on eating potato chips and sodas and this and that. And then they make this shit that I'm addicted to, Diet Coke, that I love so much, that has 0 calories. Like, oh, hey, it's a healthier version. It's worse for you.
Yeah.
But I'm addicted, so I have no choice. But, we are a nation. We are a sick nation. Our food is tainted, and we're eating it because it has sugars in it. It has addictive chemicals. And it's coming to bite us in the ass. When we were in our 50s, 60s, 70s, we start getting diseases.
Yep.
The cholesterol with the diabetes and the heart disease. Then you have cancer. I mean, we have young women who are getting breast cancer at like late 20. And it's the shit, the deodorant products that are filled with chemicals. All of a sudden, the girl says, I have a lump in my breast. She goes to the doctor and says, you have breast cancer.
Yeah.
What? The different cancers? It's insane, Cowboy, but I'm giving you a nice grade.
Yeah. So I think that transitions into your next one, though.
Yeah. I'm going to say, for me, just diseases in general. Look, there are diseases that happen. We have viruses, things like that. But in my opinion, 90% of the various diseases that have come about, they're man-made. They're caused by environmental issues. We have so many chemicals that we come across when we're in the environment. You have our products are tainted. Like I just talked about breast cancer in women. Many women are getting breast cancer from using beauty products. Like I know somebody who got breast cancer. I'm not going to say who it is, but they had breast cancer at a very young age. Very nice woman. Love her to death. She gets breast cancer at a young age. And they don't know the root cause. Like, could it be genetic? Could it be this? It's the deodorants that people are using. They have chemicals in it that are not good for us. Like, people are getting thyroid cancers. People are getting this. People are getting that. Like, the stuff that we come in contact with, these colognes and perfumes and the beauty products and things like that, they have bad chemicals in there, folks. These things are causing problems to our body. I mean, and it ignites something in our body that causes these cancer cells. Like, look, again, PSA, I'm not a doctor, scientist, whatever the fuck, but it doesn't take a genius to understand this.
Yeah.
Like, you literally have our waterways are becoming impacted with chemicals. People drink the water. Then a couple weeks later, they have bacterial infections in their body.
Well, that's one thing too. So I heard a theory that with the prevalence of the birth control pill coming into today's day and age, that when the water gets flushed down, the sewage treatment plants are not good at filtering out those type of hormones
Yeah.
from the water supply. So we're getting all this buildup of estrogen that's in our water supply, keeps recirculating back and forth. And so that's a theory of why like men's testosterone levels are falling down and everything's all messed up from that, you know. And it could be a reason for why stress and anxiety are spiking too. And then the other thing that I heard online too is a guy had a theory which kind of pairs well with yours is that in Rome, they're still using a lot of the original aqueducts that they've had there. They got the stones, they got the pebbles, they got the things, the media that are just going to be absorbing out
The shit, basically.
and putting more minerals in.
That's a good thing. We love minerals.
Yeah, into the water, back into the water. More of what like kind of water we've been drinking throughout human history.
Right.
So that I find that compelling. So
Well, you even just look like a disease like AIDS, right? Now, if you have AIDS, HIV, there's a pill that you can take now that helps with that.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s when this shit came out, everybody thought it was the end of the world. They didn't know what AIDS was. Like, how the fuck does this come? They literally said it came from a monkey. Like, it came from a monkey and it spread to the human population. Like, I don't believe that. I think AIDS was a virus that was created in the lab and it was unleashed to somewhat help control the population. A lot of diseases that are out now, like you had COVID. They thought COVID was going to become a bigger thing, but in the end, it did kill many people.
yeah.
It killed many people, but it didn't kill as many as they thought it was going to kill. Like there's diseases that are unleashed at different time periods for a reason by governments or by companies or whatever. It's a population control thing. They want to try to control the population with various diseases. Look at cancer, right? Look at cancers. You know how many people now have literally because of the shit that we drink, whatever these diet sodas, guys, like I've been drinking diet soda, whatever. I'm not saying this diet soda, but the guy's been a heavy drinker, whatever. You drink alcohol, whatever. We all love alcohol, but we can't overdo alcohol. You know, people then say, you know, my liver, I've been drinking heavy for 30 years and my liver's fucking dying from it. Or I have pancreatic cancer. Like I knew some guy, I didn't know him personally, but I know a guy who was in his 50s, you know, he passed away. The guy had lung cancer, was not a smoker. Was not a smoker. How the fuck does that happen?
Yeah.
You must come across some sort of chemical or something that you've been around quite frequently, and that thing has spread to your body and has impacted your lungs or some shit. But this is baffling to me. 90% of this shit is caused by human beings, by our environment, and a lot of these diseases are created by human beings in a lab.
Yeah, who knows what kind of chemicals that we're coming in contact with on a daily basis are causing that. You know, it's kind of scary to think about. And but most of the research goes into finding a cure for the problem rather than figuring out what the source of the problem is.
Right.
So that's the problem.
Well, and the more diseases these guys create, then they can create medications and make money off of it. Somebody who has HIV/AIDS has to basically buy this pill now that's there, and God knows how much that costs.
Yeah.
With insurance. And insurance in this country, they don't cover shit. You have to buy it. Like, first of all, these things should not even be expensive. They should be a couple of dollars, okay? Like, if somebody's diabetic and needs diabetes medication, they should be able to get access. They shouldn't have to pay $1,000, $1,500 for that shit. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
That's a human right.
once the patent runs out, then they make a new drug
Yeah.
that does almost the exact same thing that they can repatent and then go from there. It'd be one thing if we just okay, you get your money while you have the patent. Once that's up, then it's public domain or whatever, and anyone can make it, right?
It's all business. They don't care about people dying and suffering. At the end of the day, to wrap this one conspiracy theory up, it's literally they have the cure for all diseases. But the thing is, they have to do research to make a medication to fight the illness and then basically to make money off of it because they want people to pay. It's a money-making industry.
Yeah. Yeah, so that one, I'm totally behind you on that one. I'll give you a 10 out of 10.
No, 20 out of 10?
I mean...
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We'll go with our scales here. But demoted to a 3, no.
Yeah, no, I had to do it with the Aldrin thing. I demoted you by 0.5. That's not bad.
No. It's, but I find it very compelling that we don't know... we don't put enough investment into how our environment shapes our health. And we just think, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm we want a pill that's going to cure everything and make everything magically better. You know?
Something is causing the brain to lose its brain chemicals, whether it's through diet, whether it's through alcoholism, or coming in contact with a certain chemical, the brain is shutting off.
Yeah.
And the person no longer has mental means anymore. They can't think. They're anxious. They're crying. Something's going on. We need to do research on this to see why it's doing this. They're not doing the right research. And then you have people that now say that mushrooms, chemicalized mushrooms in terms of like psychedelics and things like that, if you take a couple hits of it or you eat a couple times of it, in medication form, it can actually reverse the negativity of the brain chemicals and bring you back to a harmonious state.
Yeah.
Instead of putting all these pills and shots and shit in your body, there's cures out there, but they don't want to give it because it's a money-making business. And that's very unfortunate.
Yeah. If you cure someone of the disease, then they're not going to come by and buy more drugs.
There should be no excuse for a child to suffer, like an 8-year-old with leukemia, for instance. There should be no excuse. The cure is out there.
Yeah.
Give that child the cure now so they don't die.
Yeah, I had cancer.
You had cancer.
It's
You were one when you had that.
Yeah.
And like something must have happened coming in contact with something, because for you to be a healthy 1-year-old and then have this suddenly, something is happening.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting because it's not a genetic thing for me. It was a mutation of one of my 13th chromosome. So, yeah, just fascinating.
It's crazy.
Anyways, but yeah, I'll give you a 10 out of 10 on that one. I think our diseases are caused by interactions that we are unaware of and oblivious to, and the chemicals and materials that we're in contact with all the time. We didn't even talk about the plastics, but that's a whole other discussion.
Jesus Christ, that's like an hour topic, dude. The plastics are horrible.
All
glass, folks, drink out of glass.
I'm gonna change it up a bit and go with a historical conspiracy theory.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Titanic never sank.
Oh my God, let me hear this.
All right, so hear me out. So did you know that the Titanic had a sister ship?
They had a backup ship, right?
No, so there were two of them basically. And the Titanic was the second one built. So the first one was called the Olympic. And they're virtually identical, basically the exact same ship.
Then why the fuck did the Olympic not take off?
So the Olympic was on a cruise or something like that, and then got damaged, and its hull got smashed in by something. I don't remember the full story of how that happened. But so then they took the Olympic back to the harbor and for repairs and whatnot, patched the thing up, right? And then they realized that they're kind of in the hole on this one. If the Olympic's not going to be able to be a successful cruise liner, and it's not going to be 100% in the future or whatnot. And so they're like, well, why don't we relabel it the Titanic, change it up, and then send the Titanic and the Olympic off to go out, and then we'll sink it and get the insurance money for it, and then we don't have to worry about that anymore. And then we'll just call the Titanic the Olympic, and then use that ship for our future benefits right there. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, J.P. Morgan was going to be on that ship, and then decided at the last minute to get off of that ship.
Do you think he had intel from somebody?
Yeah.
Some shit's going down?
Trying to take down all those other bankers that were on that ship as well. So crushing his competition in one fell swoop, and getting the insurance money from that too. And there's reports, because the Olympic, after it got damaged, it would always lift a little bit to starboard.
Right.
And they were saying that on some of the survivors, on the passengers and the crewmen were saying, yeah, the Titanic was listing a little bit starboard the same way that the Olympic was described to be listing too. So they went too fast. They let it get smashed by an iceberg, and then they let the damn thing sink in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And it wasn't the Titanic; it was the Olympic that went down.
So where the fuck is the Titanic?
The Titanic served in what was I gotta get my years right, but it served as a cruise liner and everything in the Atlantic for years after that, and I think served a little bit in I think it was World War I. Was it? I'm trying to remember the dates of when it was finished,
Christ.
But yeah, it's just like a little cruise liner, just like a transport ship and a little hospital vessel.
So what about when this fuck James Cameron went down with his little submarine and found the Titanic or whatever the fuck? He didn't find it, but some other dude did. But he did a documentary.
Yeah.
So what the fuck is that? The Olympic?
It's the Olympic down there. Yeah.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, all for insurance money, dude.
So, but these people died.
Oh yeah, everyone died.
Yeah, everybody died.
Yep,
okay.
All of J.P. Morgan's competition died.
Okay. All right. I'll give you a 5 out of 10 on this one. I don't know, 5 out of 10.
I'll take it.
This was a great effort, but I'm going to go 5 of 10.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. You got one more for us to wrap it up,
Yes,
right?
I do have one more. I'm going to go with the Biggie and Tupac assassination and killings. So as everybody knows, the rap today is not rap. The greatest rap was in the late 80s and early 90s, mid 90s. You had two of the biggest rap stars in Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. So they were the two biggest guys, and many people can debate who's the better one. I think they're both tied at number one. They're both so good you can't even say who's better than the other. But okay, I'm on the West Coast, so I'll go Tupac number one, Biggie number two. Okay, so as we all knew, hip hop and rap that whole movement was becoming very big, and it was really lifting the African American community, the black community in the United States, and the FBI was very worried about this. They didn't want this to become a bigger movement, and they didn't want this to become a political movement, and they wanted to squash it ASAP. So there's probably a bunch of meetings with the FBI, the president, the different administrations that this started to happen. You had the Reagan administration, you had the George H.W. Bush administration, and the Clinton administration. But Biggie and Tupac's deaths are very suspicious. They're very coincidental, and they have the hallmarks of different involvement. So with regard to Tupac, right? Tupac was attempted assassination happened in New York when he was trying to visit Biggie and Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, whatever the fuck he calls himself now, Diddy Dirty Money, whatever. So that was the first attempt, which then caused this rift between the West and East Coast. There was rap songs made about it. They were attacking each other. They used to be friends. Then you had the assassination of Tupac. Tupac was gunned down in Las Vegas next to Suge Knight, his producer / Death Row Records owner, whatever, the guy that signed him. And Suge Knight was not exactly a nice guy. He was definitely an evil person. He had grand aspirations to profit off of Tupac and all the other rappers, and he was definitely not a very nice individual. So there was a lot of different conflicting reports that maybe law enforcement was paid by the FBI to carry out this assassination because Tupac was becoming a very big figure in the black community. He was becoming a very big figure.
It's funny how often the FBI keeps coming up in all of these
because they're
things.
involved in different things.
Yeah.
And the way he was shot, how come Suge Knight wasn't killed in that shooting? Why was Tupac the only one that was shot? How come the bullets didn't stray and hit Suge Knight? How come that didn't happen? And he was killed on the Las Vegas Strip. How come nobody had any footage? Where was the cameras from the buildings? They had cameras back then. They couldn't check this out. So there was a lot of indications that law enforcement was involved, whether that be the FBI or local law enforcement that was paid by the government or by the FBI. And also there was this theory that Suge Knight wanted Tupac dead because Tupac was becoming bigger than Suge Knight, and he wanted to maybe take over Death Row Records and start his own thing. And maybe Tupac wanted to start his own record label and bring rappers with him. So he was scared that his money-making machine was going to come to an end. So he had him taken out. He had it clipped, which wouldn't surprise me. But the other thing is, then you had Biggie Smalls' assassination in Los Angeles. So he was at an awards show or whatever the fuck, and he was with Sean Combs, and then there was a shooting. A car pulled through. He was sitting in the front seat. If you know that there's tensions between these two rap groups, why do you have this gentleman sitting in the front? Why don't you have him in the middle so that if there is a shooting, he's not immediately shot or killed by a bullet or a stray bullet? He was sitting in the front, and somebody shot him like that out of a window, point blank range. And they have the guy's sketch. He's wearing a bow tie or whatever the fuck. Guy's face looked like he was an African-American suspect. They said he was an African-American individual.
With a bow tie?
With a bow tie. Could be Nation of Islam. You never know.
Jeez.
So anyways, then they think it was a retaliatory attack on Tupac. Most likely that's the case, but also law enforcement in LAPD was in cahoots. Some members of the LAPD with Suge Knight and the Death Row Records group, and they hired many of the law enforcement officers after hours for protection, for bodyguard protection, shit like that, and for some other dirty deeds. So there was an investigation on that assassination. A guy named Russell Poole, who was an LAPD officer, became a detective on this case, and he actually ended up having a heart attack and dying because he became so obsessed with the Tupac and Biggie murders, and the LAPD kept trying to silence him. They're like, oh, it was just a gang-related shooting. And he's like, no, there's more to this through his investigations. So something's going on there. The two biggest rap stars of their time and probably the two best rappers of all time were killed by law enforcement and a collusion with FBI because they didn't want the rap movement to become huge in the United States, and they didn't want the black community to have two folk heroes in Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, and they said, hey, if the black community starts rising up, they start getting overly excited over these two guys, it could become a problem for us in terms of governing. So they wanted to get this squashed.
So you're of the opinion that Tupac did die. There was no fake
I don't think it's staged. I don't think it's staged.
That,
he died. Unfortunately, he was shot and killed. And unfortunately, Biggie Smalls died too. But the truth is out there. Through Russell Poole's investigation, there was evidence that off-duty LAPD officers were hired by an entity, whether it be Suge Knight or whether it was the West Coast group or was through the FBI somebody to carry out that, or it could have been the Nation of Islam because the Nation of Islam had connections with Tupac, that they were involved in the assassination of Biggie Smalls. And then with regard to Tupac's assassination, they said it could have been gang related. It could have been the which one is the blue gang out of LA? The Crips, right? The Bloods are red, right?
To my knowledge.
To my knowledge. I'm not I don't know any of this stuff. Don't question me on it.
Yeah.
But anyways, or it could have been Suge Knight paying somebody off to carry this attack, or it could have also been another law enforcement off-duty Las Vegas police officers carrying this out on the behest of either Suge Knight or the FBI.
And so you think the government's holding information back and not telling us
They have the information. They know who did it, but they won't say, hey, we know who did it, because the investigation.
If it was an LAPD officer or something like that.
They don't want to say, hey, we were involved in killing these two guys because we were afraid this was going to become a political movement and it was going to become a problem for us to govern this country, and we're going to have the African American community kind of rise up against us.
Yeah.
So I think there's a conspiracy there, and I think that it could be legitimate. They've made shows about this. Josh Duhamel was in a show investigating the Biggie and Tupac murders. There was a show. There's a film, I think, coming out with Johnny Depp. He's playing Russell Poole, the LAPD officer detective that got so crazed about this, became obsessed. The guy was just all over the map with this, and he was coming up with something, and he was getting to the bottom line, and then he died suddenly from a heart attack. So I don't know.
Yeah. Whoever helped Epstein with his suicide also helped with that heart attack, huh?
Can we have a bonus one and talk about Jeffrey Epstein real quick?
I think we should do that one in its own justice, but
Yeah.
I don't think anyone believes that Epstein didn't kill himself.
Where's the list, folks? Where's the list of all these people that went to Epstein Island? People like Chris Tucker, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Bill Gates, Alan Dershowitz. These are all powerful people. And the list is just being not shown. They don't want, because this has
who
big
was Epstein's handler? That's what I want to know.
Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail.
Yeah, but
she's there's other people involved.
They were not Epstein.
God, I'm
was
going to be
the fall
devastated
guy,
if Donald Trump went to that island. I'll be very devastated.
I think he was on some list. I think he was on his airplane or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the guy knew a lot of people in high places, whether it was in politics, Hollywood, and law, or corporations.
Let me give your Tupac score real quick.
Give me my Tupac score.
I'm going to go 8 out of 10 once again, just because there's definitely something going on there. They're not telling us all the information.
Thank you. I like that score.
I don't know if the FBI was involved with it, but I could definitely see some shady LAPD people being involved with that. Some corruption in the 90s was a huge thing, especially down in LA. So, I think that one's plausible. I'll give it a plausibility score right there.
I appreciate that, Cowboy. I appreciate that.
But yeah, I think we should do a whole episode on Epstein or something like that.
Yeah, let's do an episode on Epstein because it's very intriguing. They're going to make a movie about this. There's been books written about it, a TV show.
Yeah, it's just insane.
Who would play Jeffrey Epstein in a film?
Oh, I don't know.
I have to look at the lookalikes, and I'll come up with my own situation.
You should play Alex Jones with the prediction.
I could play Alex Jones, but I'm going to gain like 40 pounds. So let me start hitting the Dunkin' Donuts.
Keep drinking the Diet Cokes, man. It'll be good.
Let me do that.
How about we each wrap up with our final thoughts from it, and then go ahead, give us your final thoughts first, Mr.
Folks,
Persian.
If you believe in a conspiracy, don't let people shut you up. Believe in your conspiracy, but come up with the facts necessary to make a comment about it, because there are many conspiracies out there. Many conspiracies, and you should always believe in what you think. Don't let other people tell you what to do. And they will continue to keep happening, and there are tons of them. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and be safe out there.
Yeah, I just want to draw a comparison between a lot of the theories that we've talked about today. A lot of them involve the government not telling us all of the information and us questioning the narrative that they give out to us. And I think it's important for us to be able to ask questions.
Absolutely.
We should never just blindly believe something. We should always ask for evidence. We should ask for the supporting documentation, interview the witnesses, and then we can come up to our own conclusion of what we think actually happened out there. But it's a little bit hard and scary when we're not given all the information about these things. Like, where's the list? We would love to see that list. And so I think my closing thought would be, question the narrative. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to talk about stuff. It's okay to question the government, question these higher up officials that are all powerful. We need to question them. We need to challenge them, and we need to come up with. We need to pursue the truth at all costs. Is really what it comes down to. So, with that, I'll thank you. He's the Persian. I'm the Cowboy. Cheers, y'all.
So long, folks.
Stay safe.